Yo, what is up? Welcome to Ninja Geek Games Tabletop Grudge Match, a series where I compare two games closely related by genre, theme or mechanics and have them go head to head where only one can be deemed the winner. In this video, I've selected games from MODIPHIUS Entertainment that both have popular console IPs. In the red corner we have Fallout Wasteland Warfare, and in the blue corner we have the Elder Scrolls Call to Arms. So why skirmish games? Well, how else are you going to show your friends you're better than them than by having a small party of hardened warriors completely destroy theirs? It's like a little reward. Let's get it on. Fallout is set in a post-apocalyptic world ravished by atomic warfare, where players take on the role of survivors, exploring the world outside their vault, or super mutants, which are like normal mutants, just more badass. Elder Scrolls, on the other hand, is set in the fantasy realm of Tamriel, a world rich in magic and legendary warriors. In both games, players lead a band of miniature heroes in a variety of scenarios already prepared in an adventure book. Now, in other tabletop grudge match videos, I review the embattled games in detail and make a decision on which I have deemed the worthy winner. But considering these games are both starter sets with a hefty campaign book and advanced rule set, instead I'm going to show you the components and base game mechanics of each game, as well as show you the scenarios and how they're played out, so you can make a decision on which game is best suited to your skirmish needs. Let's take a look. So first, the contents, the secret treasures or loot contained within the games. Fallout comes with 12 nicely detailed miniatures that don't need assembly, which is a bonus, with 6 of each from the survivors or super mutant factions. There are a load of cards for individual units showing stats and special abilities, as well as item cards representing a vast array of weapons and others that are needed as per the scenario you're playing that includes specific events. Some of the weapons are pretty cool, from standard shotguns to bolt-action pipe rifles, but if you do fancy some DIY to someone's face, try a sledgehammer. There are a load of tokens to represent model activation, damage and status effects, but luckily there is a well-presented key in the rulebook. There are various different lengths and colours for range markers used for combat and movement, enough for each player to own a set, and 10 dice with the white dice used for skill tests and the others used for modifiers or other bonus effects. Lastly, Fallout comes with a nicely detailed game mat that folds out to create a 3-foot by 3-foot gaming area. For Elder Scrolls, the components are largely similar to some extent. There are some nicely detailed and large hero cards, as well as followers that make up your party, as well as a horde of smaller cards for items, traps, events and even quests. I like the spell cards as there are so many different types that include traps, enchantments and destructive spells, to name a few. Again, there are various tokens to represent stamina and health, as well as objective markers and status effects. The dice are similar to that of Fallout, as there's a white skill dice, but the others used for modifications in Skyrim or for bonuses are D6. Both games also come with a basic rule set, which is what most of the video will discuss, as well as a campaign or adventure book containing the various scenarios that can be played and a very detailed advanced rules tome. Now, right off the bat, I know what you're thinking, and I was surprised too. For a well thought out skirmish game, Elder Scrolls leaves out two vital components, a game mat and, more importantly, miniatures. I know, but it's not as bad as it seems. Stay with me. Firstly, the Elder Scrolls is a lot cheaper by half, so put your gold pieces away. This means you can choose to buy particular factions separately and still break even. If, like me, you have the Skyrim Adventure board game, you can also get an upgraded miniature set that is compatible for both games, but if you're feeling as confident as a Dragonborn, you can instead buy the deluxe version of the game that is bound in dragon skin. Just kidding, but it does contain everything you need to start playing without any extras. Also, not having a game mat isn't an issue. They can be made or bought. In fact, although Fallout provides one, it has many folds so it doesn't lie entirely flat, and the material is quite reflective, so it's likely you'll upgrade this anyway. For both games, you'll want to think about terrain, as this becomes an important part of the game strategically with regard to line of sight, elevation and cover. But creating your own world in this way is quite rewarding, giving you a unique experience with each play, and MODIPHIUS do lend a hand where scenario is available on their site, which is pretty cool. Component wise, the Elder Scrolls is of higher quality, but with Fallout cards have this awesome weathered appearance which is quite thematic. The survivors and mutants, super mutants, are very well detailed, and those for Elder Scrolls are great but do require some assembly which is quite fiddly, so be prepared for that. Each game comes with quite a thick campaign or quest book detailing the various scenarios and game modes that you can choose, as well as how to create your force or hero party from a particular faction. This will include weapons and items that is carried out using a point system mechanic for each unit. If you're not used to skirmish games, the advanced rules for each game are quite heavy and very long at up to 100 pages for Elder Scrolls, but luckily if like me you want to dive straight in, there are basic rule sets available so you can ease your way into the various game mechanics. What you can do is then add in a couple of the advanced rules like line of sight, cover and events, and extend gameplay over time, which is a really good way to understand the full systems of either game. To get a good understanding of the basic game, we'll want to look at the mechanics like combat and movement, but first we need to quickly go over the unit and character cards. In Fallout, each miniature has their own unit card that shows a number of stats with associated skills, a special ability, armor values and movement. When moving normally, you look at the first colour icon on the unit card and pick up the matching range ruler where the unit can move any distance between its starting position and the end of the ruler. The second icon is generally a longer range and is used for charging, which provides bonuses when entering melee combat. In Elder Scrolls, the miniatures also have a character card, large ones for the heroes and smaller ones for followers. The hero cards are actually double-sided with a levelled version of the hero on the reverse. Character stats and skill icons are listed here, and this area shows the reserve pools for health, stamina and magicka, and the unit's height, which is used in combat and elevation status. This icon is seen on a number of cards and is basically the cost of the character or item that is used when creating your party at setup. The hero cards also have various slots around them where collected items, weapons and armour can be stored, which I quite like. You'll note there's no movement stat present, and that's because the generic movement range for all characters is 6 inches, and if different it will be mentioned somewhere on the card. However, you can choose to sprint that requires a sudden burst of energy, allowing you to move an extra 3 inches, but does cost stamina and therefore you are limited in how much you spend dependent on your starting value. So the Elder Scroll character cards are awesome with regards to artwork and item slot availability, which I like, and also think they're pretty well laid out, but I do like the weathered appearance of those from Fallout. However, Elder Scrolls doesn't come with any range rulers, and instead you must make use of a tape measure, which can be cumbersome, but I do like the option of spending stamina to sprint that is extra movement, which is quite thematic. Likewise, having the option to cover more ground by charging in melee combat in Fallout is great, as this can give you extra dice in combat. Now, running about a haunted dungeon or a barren wasteland may seem like fun, and it is, but it's pretty pointless without actions, and we've briefly gone over movement. In both games, each character or unit gets to perform 2 actions per round from quite a long list, as well as having 3 actions. However, the way these actions are activated in each game is different. In Elder Scrolls, players go back and forth activating individual characters with one player having advantage. In Fallout, you apply ready tokens to your units and then activate all units with a marker followed by the opponent. Most actions require a skill check, and these all involve dice rolls and are used when exploring, swinging a sword, shooting a high-powered rifle, or even picking a lock. Whenever you're required to prove your worth in carrying out a skill check, you need to look at the icon related to the skill and then find your associated stat that has the matching icon. In Elder Scrolls, each character has 5 stat values, but for Fallout they have 7, and each of these stats has an associated value. For skill checks in both games, you roll a white d20 skill die that contains various faces comprising of number values and symbols. If you roll any symbol other than an X or a number equal to or less than your stat value, the skill has succeeded. Simple. So, if this survivor wanted to blast a super mutant in the face with a long-range gun, or our sword-wielding warrior wanted to make the skeleton a head shorter, then the skill check mechanics for the games are largely the same. Both characters need to match the weapon icon to the particular stat they're rolling against. Then, as long as you're able to roll a number value equal to or less than the stat value, or any symbol other than X, you've succeeded at the skill roll. What I've discussed here is the simplest form of a skill check, only using the white skill dice. However, most skill tests allow you to roll additional dice based on your character's equipment and special abilities, as well as the range of any attack you're making. For instance, this bow allows the shooter to add different dice to their skill roll based on the distance between the two models. In Fallout, range is again measured with rulers, where this is the short range ruler to be used, but for a long range shot you need to add both rulers together, and these symbols show the coloured dice that you add to the rolls. I like the skill check mechanic. It's simple and you can then play a bit more strategically to try and ensure the best chance of success by applying extra dice to your rolls in various actions. In Elder Scrolls you can add green dice to skill checks by spending stamina, and in both games the green die is a stat value modifier, making it easier for you to meet your target. The yellow dice are used to modify armor rolls once hit in combat, and the others are effect dice to include additional damage or some special effects of some kind. If hit in combat, you'll be able to reduce damage based on the character's armour. For Elder Scrolls, any armour you wear equipped to your character allows you to roll dice and deduct or cancel damage, allowing you to continue fighting unharmed or laughing in the face of a mere flesh wound. It's slightly more robust in Fallout, as each weapon provides a particular type of damage and each unit has an armour rating against that type of damage. Again, this involves a dice roll with the value needing to be low in order to absorb the damage and avoid hits. What I've discussed here is the rules in the most basic form. The advanced rules for each game are highly detailed to include modifiers to attacks if in cover, restrictions to movement based on terrain, the use of spells and grenades, and how events are played out. There are adversaries that come into the game or quests provided in Elder Scrolls, and both games can be played solo, which is quite appealing to some players. There is so much content in the rules, you're getting a truly epic skirmish game, and we haven't even discussed any changes based on the scenario that you've chosen to play. Fallout comes with a campaign handbook with a number of ways to play the game, and we've already mentioned solo play that makes use of AI cards. There are 5 tutorial scenarios to get you better acquainted to the game and 10 story scenarios. There are options to add settlements to play where you can explore the wasteland between scenarios to gain better access to the limited items available. In Elder Scrolls you can enter battle modes with 2 or more parties or delve into cooperative dungeon play against the game. Again, these are vastly different scenarios, but you'll get to fight over treasure and objectives during the game for victory points and rewards, and it also includes a campaign system. So that's my overview of the contents and basic rule sets for Fallout Wasteland Warfare and the Elder Scrolls Call to Arms. I do have my preference, but actually both games are pretty great and different enough to give you a very unique and thematic experience. It's now up to you to decide which game appeals to you more. If you do have a preference, let me know which and why in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. This is Ninja Geek Games. Cheers.